Facebook over here. What's up, PT on Ice crew? I am Dr. Mark Gallant, lead faculty for the Ice Extremity Division, alongside Lindsay Huey and Eric Chacones. Pumped to be here with you on Clinical Tuesday. So this is just an absolutely huge week for the Ice crew, for the Ice community. This weekend is Ice Sampler, so it's like the Super Bowl for all of us at Ice, and we were super bummed last year that we weren't able to host it in person. So even though it went off really well doing the virtual sampler, it just can't replace us all being together in one spot. So we are beyond excited for this weekend. It's going to be at CrossFit Hendersonville in Hendersonville, Tennessee, so just a few miles north of Nashville. And if you haven't been to CrossFit Hendersonville, it is just an amazing CrossFit facility. So festivities are going to kick off Friday. A lot of people are going to be getting in a day early to test for the ICE certification early Friday morning and afternoon. And then a bunch of us are going to be doing 21.3, the final workout of the CrossFit Open at CrossFit Hendersonville that afternoon. So that should be a pretty fun day. And then the real meat and potatoes are going to start Saturday morning, where each of the divisions under the ICE umbrella are going to take 45 minutes to 2 hours to deliver their absolute best content for you and then pass the mic around the room. At the end of that day, just like every other ICE course, we're going to have a nice workout right there at CrossFit Hendersonville. Hopefully Jeff remembers to bring his grips this time so he doesn't tear again. And then after that, right there at CrossFit Hendersonville, we're going to host a barbecue. So we're going to have a bunch of food. I think there's going to be a keg there. It should be a really good time. And then Sunday, we're going to do more of the same of just passing the mic around and hopefully deliver some really good content. What I want to talk about today is special tests and how they don't really seem to be that special, and specifically special tests of the shoulder. So last year, Paul Salam out of the University of Indianapolis and Jeremy Lewis out of the UK published an article called "Is It Time to Put Special Tests for Rotator Cuff Related Shoulder Pain Out to Pasture?" Now, this article unfortunately got published early April of last year, so it was kind of height of the pandemic. I just don't think a lot of us were in a space where we could really take in an article like this and really let it absorb, but it's a great read. So what I want to do today is rehash some of the main points from that article and maybe give us some direction of where we can go moving forward out of the article. So one of the first main points that Paul Salam and Jeremy Lewis make in the article is that for a test to be valid, it has to test the thing it says it's testing. And the way we know that it does that is we have a gold standard to compare it to. Well, for shoulder special tests and for the shoulder in general over the last 20 to 30 years, the gold standard comparison has always been the MRI. Well, unfortunately, over the last decade, we found out that the MRI may not be a great gold standard to compare other things to, because when we look at asymptomatic individuals and we run them through the MRI tube, what we see is they have tons of abnormalities. So we're going to see a bunch of partial and even full thickness rotator cuff tears. We're going to see labral damage. We're going to see abnormalities to the long head of the biceps tendon. We're going to see all sorts of different shapes of acromions. So even asymptomatic individuals have a bunch of abnormalities. So we can't really say that the MRI can tell us what the symptom generator of the shoulder is. Barreto et al. Did a wonderful study a few years ago where they had 123 individuals that had one-sided shoulder pain. So what they decided to do just for fun is they were going to MRI the symptomatic side, but also MRI the asymptomatic side. And what shook out was there was an equal amount of abnormalities on both sides. So both sides had rotator cuff pathology, both sides had abnormalities to the labrum. It really didn't matter. So again, what we see is that we can't use this as a gold standard, which basically makes all of our special test articles not really valid. Even the clusters, like the classic part cluster that we always use for shoulder impingement, or the Mishner cluster, all of these studies used the MRI tube as their way to gold standard validate all these tests, and so we really can't hang our hat on these tests anymore. The second point that Jeremy Lewis and Paul Salam bring up is that they bring us back to anatomy lab in physical therapy school, dissecting out those shoulders. So one thing becomes very apparent when you dissect a shoulder, and that is that all of these structures are deeply interwoven together. So our rotator cuff tendons all kind of blend together. The labrum is attached to everything. The glenohumeral ligaments are attached to the capsule. The long head of the biceps deeply attached. Everything is just kind of woven together. So it would be virtually impossible to blame one structure as the nociceptive driver if all of these structures are interwoven together. Furthermore, when we do a special test like the full can or the empty can, we can't really say like, ooh, that's the supraspinatus causing the nociceptive drive, because what we see is that there's like 9 different muscles active when you do that one single test. So if we have a bunch of muscles activated and we have all of these structures that are interwoven together, there is literally no way to say that one thing is the nociceptive driver, and therefore we can't really design a test to individualize one structure as the problem. So I'm going to read a sentence that Paul Salam and Jeremy Lewis put in the article, because I think it's extremely important based on those 2 facts. And they say, continuing to rely on special test results and imaging to inform recommendations for invasive procedures such as injections or surgery in non-traumatic presentations of the shoulder is arguably not acceptable practice. It is arguably not acceptable practice. That's coming from Jeremy Lewis, who's one of the best researchers we have in the area of the shoulder over the last couple decades in JOSPT. JOSPT is one of our 3 or 4 top most reputable journals, and they're saying straight up that using these special tests to inform practice is no longer acceptable practice. If that's not a nail in the coffin on special tests for the shoulder, I just don't know what is. So what do we do? Are we supposed to just throw all of these things away? Are we supposed to not even examine the shoulder and just start throwing darts at it as far as treatments? Well, of course not. So what are you going to do if Billy comes into your clinic? Billy has right shoulder pain. So Billy plays center field for the Junior Woodchucks co-ed softball team, and a week ago, when he was in center field, he threw a ball from center field to home plate trying to prevent a run being scored. He winds up in your clinic. What are you going to do for Billy? How are you going to test him out? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a really good subjective exam. A really deep, thorough subjective exam that starts with the body chart so that you can get all of Billy's symptom areas. Then you're going to find some aggravating and easing factors for 2 reasons. One, so you can get the functional things that are important to Billy. Also, you're trying to establish irritability. Is this a really hot shoulder, or is this low-level irritability shoulder where I can really put some vigor into this thing? Then you're going to do a really, really thorough history that really focuses on load and load capacity. So Billy, was this game early in the season where you really haven't thrown that much and your shoulder's really not used to that stress? Or was this game late in the season where you've accumulated a lot of throws and maybe that tissue is fatigued and you're tired? Well, Billy, what's your lifestyle like? What's your diet like? Do we have a lot of sugar that we're eating that could lead to an inflammatory component? Or, Billy, when you're not playing center field for the Junior Woodchucks baseball team, what's your strength training program like? How resilient is that shoulder? What are we doing to build overall robustness? So you're going to do a really good subjective history that gathers all of that information. And then from there, you're going to perform a really simple yet focused objective exam. Again, a simple yet focused objective exam that includes active range of motion with overpressures, passive range of motion, manual muscle testing, and really good palpation. Now, if Billy has a non-irritable shoulder, this could be a place where some of those old special tests come into play. So let's say Billy's shoulder is non-irritable and you take him through active range of motion, passive range of motion, and nothing is really blipping. But based on your subjective exam, your hypothesis, you really think that the shoulder is the region that's creating the nociceptive drive. Well, maybe a Hawkins-Kennedy is a great thing to throw in there. You're going to get that combined flexion, internal rotation, adduction that's really going to wind that shoulder up, and it may cause Billy's symptoms to blip finally. Well, what you've just done there, you have not ruled in that the supraspinatus is a problem. You have not ruled in labral issues. You have not ruled in any individual tissue. What you have ruled in is, hey, Billy, it seems like the shoulder is involved in this. It seems like when we put your arm in this position that the shoulder really gets a bit uncomfortable, and I think that's the region of the body that your symptoms are coming from. How about we do some treatments there so that we can get you back out there playing for the Junior Woodchucks softball team? So to recap, The MRI is not a good gold standard to validate special tests, and so it's hard for us to say that any of our special tests are really that valid. Number two, we can't individualize structures based on special tests because all of these structures are so interwoven together. And then finally, the best way to examine the shoulder, as experts do the basics well, a simple exam that includes active range of motion with overpressure, passive range of motion, muscle testing, and palpation, and maybe using some of these special tests as more vigorous combined motion testing that can help rule the region in, but not identify specific structures. If you want to learn more about how we believe the best way to examine the shoulder and some of our favorite treatments, please join the ICE Extremity Division on the road in 2021, or better yet, we still have some open dates for the back half of 2021, so if you'd like us to join you in your clinic, Lindsay, Eric, and I would love to get out there on the road and join you. The next opportunity to catch us is going to be in Fenton, Michigan, April 10th, so we're going to be up there hanging out with Alan, Mitch, and Rachel. Should be an absolute blast, and I cannot wait to see you all this weekend at ICE Sampler if you all are coming out there, and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.